Good morning, everyone. Good morning. How are you all doing this morning? Good to see you. Good to see you. We are here for another episode. It is Friday. It is Friday. Thank God it's Friday. I don't know about you, but it's been a busy, long week, and we are ready. I'm ready for the weekend. I am ready for the weekend. Good morning, true fan. How are you? Good to see you this morning. Good to see you up bright and early, ready to face the day. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you so much. This morning, we are going to be talking about the term adulting. Adulting. Now, if it's something that you've never heard of before, it's probably because it's not really a word. It's not really a word. It's a word that has been made up recently here in society. It's not in the dictionary. It's in the Urban Dictionary. It's sort of just like a word that's been made up by kids that sort of describes the process of going from or making that transition from childhood into adulthood, right? Where we're learning to take on most, if not all, of the responsibilities that one would understand that comes with being an adult. Taking care of yourself, providing for yourself, making adult decisions, all that type of stuff. So that is why it may be something that you may not have heard before, but it is a very common term used amongst millennials and the generations after the millennials. When it comes to taking on those adult roles and responsibilities, providing for yourself and maybe providing for others. And that's basically what it means. And it's termed adulting. So we've been talking about parenting and step parenting this week. And so I wanted to talk to the young adults out there who may be watching, or young adults or people who watch my channel, subscribe to my channel, who may have some young adults in their life who are, transitioning into this time. So now I see young adults on social media who pretty much like to claim this term adulting around the age 17, 18, or a little later, just to kind of depending on whenever they leave the house, whether that's going to college or getting a job or moving out on their own, somewhere around that time, or just sort of moving out from under the dependency of their parents and becoming more independent, providing for their own wants, providing for their own needs. So, however, if we are honest, right, if we're honest, when we think about this term adulting is kind of always happening. It's something that happens throughout your life. I feel like I'm still adulting. Really, my adulting sort of just transitions from one phase of life to another. It's never really at the point where it's like, okay, I've reached my limit of adulting, right? It's always there. It's just sort of morphing itself into one phase or another. Good morning, Levi Boyd. How are you? Good to see you this morning. Welcome, welcome. We are talking about adulting this morning. So, like I said, it's just moving from different stages. And, to this day, I know people who are in their 40s and 50s and 60s who are still in those sort of earlier stages of adulting because they are having to learn skills or learn ways to take care of themselves that they just may not have had when they were younger. And so there's different things that we're learning throughout our entire lives to try to, learn what it means to adult. Adulting for me really started with having to learn how to speak for myself, right? In a responsible and respectful way, because I had to learn that, if I talk to myself any kind of way, I'll talk to other people any kind of way. And that kind of approach just doesn't work well when you're trying to learn to communicate well and get along well with others. So I had to learn how to, talk to myself in a positive way, in a good way, and also learn how to talk to others the same, so that I could have healthy relationships and learn to have healthy communication in my life. Good morning, Harrison. How are you? Good to see you driving and listening. I appreciate you being here. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you. So yeah, it started with me learning how to, talk well for myself and speak well for myself. And then it sort of moved into learning how to get comfortable in my own skin. right? There's definitely a process in learning how to be comfortable in who you are, because you grow up, your parents tell you who you are, the world likes to try to tell you who you are. And we have to learn to kind of figure out for ourselves who we really are, who we want to be, who we're representing. What it is that we believe. I had to get comfortable with my beliefs. I had to get comfortable with my religion and my religious practices. I had to get comfortable with these things. And that required me, to learn how to be comfortable in my own skin so that I could be my own person without letting others define me. So that was a really important, part of me. That's kind of where my adulting started, was learning how to get comfortable with myself. Then I had to learn how to start, taking responsibility for my words and my actions, right? That was another huge part of transitioning into an adult, not blame, laying blame and all that type of stuff. So I had to learn to be responsible and for my words and my actions. That was another transition. From there, it sort of transitioned from me getting some life skills and some social skills and some employment skills. That was another important thing to do, because I needed to learn how to be an adult, right? I had to learn how to cook and clean and, be responsible, all that. Had to learn how to socialize with people of different age groups. That was a huge part of me adulting. And then I had to, figure out how I was going to earn some money, like how I was going to live in life. So all these things were sort of part of my transitioning into adulthood. Then it moved from there to me learning how to find a mate and be a wife and a mother. And that was another huge transition. That was a huge transition. A lot of times young girls, grow up thinking, oh, one day I'm going to be a wife, or they have those dreams or aspirations to be a wife, but we don't really know what it means to be a wife. We have no idea. We may have seen, our parents married, or you may have seen someone in your life that was married and have some idea of what, prayerfully, you had a healthy marriage around you somewhere, if you didn't live in a space where there was a healthy marriage. But prayerfully, there was somebody around you who you were able to look at, and other than just the people we see on TV, because we know that reality TV is not that real. And so, hope we have our thoughts and ideas of what we think marriage should look like and be like, and all these aspirations of what we hope our marriages will be. And then you get in one and you realize that, oh, this is not quite what I thought it was, right? Not quite what I thought it was going to be. And so a lot of men, sometimes they do too, have these dreams and aspirations of maybe one day getting married, or sometimes it's just an afterthought of something they kind of fall into, right? They really didn't plan on getting married, but now they meet this woman who they love and care about, and they're like, oh, I think we're supposed to get married, right? So I don't know what type of person you were coming up as a kid. These are the things that I've seen. Some men we meet, marriage is the furthest thing from their mind. They're like, no, I don't ever want to do that, right? That's nothing I never want, a road I never want to go down. But for some young men, it is something they want to do. I have a young nephew right now who has proposed to his wife and getting ready to embark upon that journey. So, it happens for men at different stages, and for women as well, and at whatever stage it happens for you is completely fine, really. So yeah, I had to learn how to be a wife. I had to learn how to be a mother. And now I'm at the stage where I'm really working on sort of figuring out how to live out my purpose, right? Figuring out how I can use my gifts and my talents to serve the world, to serve God's people, which is everyone in the world, whether they accept him as such or not. And I want to feel God's purposes for my life. I want to leave a legacy for my kids, for the people who are in my life. I want to impact everyone who is in my life circle in some way, shape, or form. And so everything I'm doing at this point in my life has become intentional. So, and that's another part that I feel is, a sign of adulting, where we're no longer sort of just coasting through life, accepting things as they come, day by day. I'm at a point in my life where everything I'm doing, I want to be intentional. My days are probably shorter. I probably have less days before me than I, have behind me now. And that's becoming a real reality to me with every birthday. So I'm really working to be intentional with my life. Childhood is over for me, and I'm losing life every day. And I want my life to have meaning, and I want to have an impact on everyone that enters my life, my family, my children, my, friend circle, my outer circle, everyone. I want to have impact. Good morning, real mamas. How are you this morning? Good to see you. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I appreciate you being here this morning on a Friday. I was so wanting to sleep in, but I have work to do. I have work to do always. So I am here with you all. Now, for you all, adulting may have happened in a different order, right? Some of you may have had to sort of embark upon that journey of adulting very early. Maybe you didn't have, that very responsible parents, and you had to take on some of those adulting roles very early in life. Maybe you had to take care of some of your younger siblings or, other family members that lived in your household. Maybe you had to be the one responsible for paying the bills, and had to be responsible for, buying groceries, making sure food was on the table, different things like that. I see children at very, very young ages having to take on these roles because they have parents who are not responsible, who have not made it through their phases of adulting. And so, whatever way adulting has happened for you, if you had to take on this sort of process very early in life, it's okay, because like I say, we're always adulting. It never really ends. It just, morphs itself into different phases. So I wanted to talk about this morning because on social media, I see a lot of young kids who sort of have this misconception that adulting is, not eating cereal every day for dinner, or, not eating Pop-Tarts and pizza for breakfast. and you see these hashtag adulting signs, or, I did my laundry today, hashtag adulting, right? These little things. And it's like, oh, that's cute. But adulting is so much more than that, so much more than that. And so before kids, these young adults take on these, this claim, this title of adulting, there's just some things I really want them to have a better understanding of about what adulting is, because adulting is not just turning 18 or 21 and being able to drink or staying out as late as you want, right? Adulting, I mean, it's so much more than that. It's so much more than that. So while making those kind of decisions of, being able to do those things, whether, whether you're going to stay out late or come home or whatever, that is a part of adulting. But, there are much bigger concepts to grasp if you really want to understand what it means to be an adult. So, and I remember coming up as a child, parents and adults always, don't rush, stay a child. And of course, we're always like, you don't know what you're talking about. I'm ready to be grown. I'm ready to make my own decisions. I'm ready to, walk in and out of this house when I please. Like, we don't want to hear all that, right? Because we have this idea of what we think adulting is until we become an adult. And it's like, oh, this is what they were talking about. Like, oh my gosh, let me go back to being a child. I'm so sorry. I don't want to be here. This is not where I want to be. So we learn very quickly when you have to start making some real adult decisions what adulting really is. And you wish you could go back to just, those simple decisions of what am I going to have for breakfast, right? Fruit Loops or Cheerios or Frosted Flakes, right? Yes, but that is not the case. So here's some things that I want to talk about. So that we can have a clear understanding of what adulting actually is. The first one is taking initiative. Taking initiative, right? A huge part of becoming an adult is recognizing when you see a problem, when you see an issue, when you see something that needs to be done, realizing the skills and capabilities that we have, and taking the initiative to fulfill those needs, or to take on that issue, or to fix the problem, or whatever the situation is, without someone having to ask us to do it. Okay, that's huge. That is very huge. And I know people think that it's something simple, but it's big. because that's a real sign that you are sort of moving away from that parental dependency, because the parents are always telling you when to get up, when to eat, when to brush your teeth, when to, you know, take care of your laundry, when to fold your clothes, when to do all these things. But when you can get to a place where you know that you need something and you go ahead and take care of it without someone having to tell you to do it, this is when you are really moving into that stage of adulting. Knowing, thinking about what's best for you, what's best for those around you, and taking care of it, like I said, without someone having to ask. Hashtag adulting. Okay. All right. So, yes, taking initiative is a huge thing, whether you're at work, whether you're at home, whether you're with your friends. You see a problem, you see an issue, you recognize it, and you start to try to do something about it without waiting for somebody to say, hey, can you do this? Or make sure you do that. Or don't forget to do this. You know, that's a huge thing. The next one is budgeting, right? Budgeting. Now, this is where I myself was a late bloomer. I'll say I was a late bloomer when it came to budgeting. I left home pretty late because I stayed home through college and I didn't move out of that. And then even when I graduated college, I stayed home an extra year and saved some money so that when I moved out, I would have some money, right? So I'm sorry, forgive me. So when I moved out, I would have some money. And I did when I moved out, but I didn't have that money for very long because I was busy, you know, spending and doing and, you know, partying and having fun and doing all the things that I enjoy doing, traveling, moving around. I was doing it all because I was an adult now, right? So yeah, so budgeting was something that I didn't do very well. I had a good job. I was making plenty of money. And, you know, for a 23-year-old, I'm sorry, 26-year-old, I was making plenty of money. And I didn't have any kids. I just had my little rent and, you know, utilities that I was sharing with my best friend. And so, you know, I was having a good time. I was living life and loving life and all of that. So needless to say, I got myself into, you know, problems pretty quickly with budgeting and financing. And I never struggled. Well, you know, I was bouncing my checkbook because back then, now I'm aging myself, right? Because back then we had checkbooks and stuff, and I was bouncing my checks all the time because I hadn't figured out how to keep up. Well, I had learned how to balance the checkbook. When I got in trouble, actually, was when we got debit cards. So I was living in the time where we transitioned from checkbooks to debit cards. And so when I got that debit card, I was like, oh, this is nice, you know, right? I can just swipe and, you know, the money comes out. And then I would go to write my check for my bills and they would bounce. And so needless to say, I got myself into trouble. So my mom had to come over and sit down with me. And she's like, I don't understand why you're broke, why you work, you have a job, you're making money, you know, you make plenty of money to support yourself. Why are you struggling? And so I sat down and I showed her, she's like, oh, this is the little thing here that's getting you in trouble. And so I had to learn how to re-budget around a debit card because that wasn't something that I was accustomed to using. So yeah. And budgeting, like I say, can happen at every phase because all sorts of things happen when we are adulting in life, right? You may have a job loss. You may have an illness that affects you. If you lose your employment, if you get sick, if you get in some sort of accident that you didn't anticipate, or the person that you're with, your spouse, if you're married, if they get in an accident and something happens where one of you loses your jobs, all kinds of family crises happen. You may have dependents. All of a sudden, you may end up having a child or multiple children that you either have or have to take on. All kinds of things can happen that, you know, can affect our income, or we may have to help out a family member, right? We may have to help out somebody who's really close to us. And so we're constantly having to learn how to budget our money and adjust the funds when needed. And so if you are not if you don't learn to be responsible with your money, then you're going to have a hard time making those transitions as things happen. So Always. Something I developed really early is I always live by that 10-10-80 rule. And if you don't know what that is, it's 10% to God, 10% to yourself, and 80% you live off the 80%, right? Because we give God the 10% first if you're a believer, if you're a Christian. And I know many of you struggle with this. And I, in my lifetime, have had times where I have struggled with this myself. Because it can look very hard to be like, oh, I have to give all this amount of money away to the church. And, people have all their issues with the church and what pastors are doing with the money and this, that, and the other. However, the word tells us that we are to tithe, that we are to, give our funds to the work of the church and, trust and believe that the money will end up going where it needs to go. Not always, but that's not on you. That's not on you. We have to do what we're called to do. We can't be responsible, for what the church does. If they're doing wrong by the funds that God gives them, they will have to, pay for that or handle that. However, I know that's a controversial issue. That's probably a whole nother issue I could talk about on its own, but so I won't talk about it now. But yeah, 10% to God, 10% to yourself. It makes no sense in the world for you to get up every day, go to work every day, and do the things that you do and not investing in yourself, not put money in your savings account, not pay yourself. So pay God, pay yourself, and then live off that 80%. So, and once I sort of developed that plan around my life, things just were so much better. I had so much less stress and more peace in my life. And if you are not there now, if you're not doing that now, try to work your way into transitioning into doing that. So it's never too late to do that. So anyway, once I started getting that down, God, self-life, then I had to work on, budgeting what type of shelter that I would like to be around. I had to work on, keeping food in the house, clothing. I had to make sure that I had good transportation. All these things required me to budget. And our eyes, we live in a have it your way, have it now society, just do it society. So we see things, we want it, and we get it, and we'll deal with the consequences of it later. Well, when you're adulting, when you're trying to transition into becoming an adult, that doesn't work. You find out very quickly that doesn't work. You have to transition into, being an adult and making responsible decisions with your money so that you can be prepared for that job loss, so that you can be prepared for that illness, so that you can be prepared or just even be in a position where you can be a blessing to others, where you can help others. So when that crisis comes up, you're not struggling and stressed about trying to figure out, oh, how am I going to handle this? I don't have the money to do this, right? So yeah, those are all a part of adulting. And then once I, sort of made sure that I had shelter and food and clothing and transportation, then it was sort of like the things that I do for my health and my beauty and my travel, because I love to travel. And that's something I've done really since I was in my 20s. I've always loved to travel. And so it's something that I make sure that I budget into my budget, right? That I can move around and do the things I like to do. I like to get my hair done. I like to get my nails done. I like to, do all these things that women like to do. And so, but I had to budget those things into my life. And I see a lot of young people who spend, $500-600 on that hairdo and then are struggling to pay their rent or struggling to pay their car note. And it's like, okay, we got to switch up our priorities here. We can't buy those $300 shoes or spend, $100 getting our nails done or whatever, getting our feet done and all that. And then we're struggling to, put food on the table. So, this is the things that we have to think about when we really think that we're transitioning into adulting. The next one is health, right? Take care of yourself. Take care of yourself. Adulting, a huge part of adulting is learning how to take care of yourself, your physical health, exercising, movement, drinking enough water, getting enough sleep, right? These are all things that even to this day, I still struggle with, right? I still struggle with making sure that I move every day. I still struggle with making sure I get enough water in. I still struggle with making sure I finish up everything I need to do in the day so I can get to sleep on time and get a good night's rest so that I don't wake up the next morning yelling at my kids because I'm tired or being grumpy and grouchy with my husband because I'm tired, right? So these are things that are sort of a part of adulting throughout your whole life. Then there's your mental health, recognizing when you are overwhelmed, when you are stressed, when things are getting too much for you. Those are things that we have to realize where we may need to scale back in some areas, where we may need to put more time into some areas. Your emotional health, recognizing when you need to incorporate some enjoyment, right? We all want to live on a vacation. We all want to, live or escape our way into whatever it is that we enjoy doing, right? We can spend hours on social media. We can spend hours watching TV. We can spend hours reading a book, or we could stay on vacation for a lifetime, but that is not going to, get us where we need to be. One of the issues I see, and that I feel like, we live in this constant state of escapism where we are not being responsible about, what we need to do, the things that we need to do versus the things that we want to do. We're spending more time doing the things that we want to do and less time doing the things that we need to do. And our marriages are failing, our relationships are failing. We're not at where we need to be on our jobs. We're not where we need to be in our life. We're not where we need to be with God. We're just not where we need to be. And yet we don't take into consideration where we are allowing too much time in areas that are not benefiting us, that are not progressing us, that are not propelling us forward in life. And so if we're not growing, we're dying. It's just that simple. And so taking care of your emotional health. Laugh when you need to laugh. Cry when you need to cry. I allow myself to just have a good cry every now and then for whatever reason. If I'm watching a movie, if I'm having a thought about something, cry when you need to cry, laugh when you need to laugh, allow yourself to get angry when you need to get angry, but just don't sit in that space forever, right? So that's all a part of our emotional health. Our social health, limit the time that if you have some toxic people in your life, make sure that you are limiting your time around those people, because that toxicity, that negativity is contagious. It will get in you, it will get on you, and you'll find yourself behaving in ways and dealing with things that you shouldn't have to deal with. So social health, all that, extend your time with like-minded people, extend your time with people who are where you're trying to be. Okay, extend your time with them, because we want to glean off of people who have something to offer. But if we are just constantly around people who are just constantly pulling on us, then eventually we're going to get drained. And so if we're not, keeping ourselves around people who are pouring into us, then we're gonna get drained. And then there's that spiritual health part of it, that spiritual health, being grounded. You need to be grounded in something. I don't care what religion you are. I myself serve the Lord. I myself serve Jesus. And that is where I sit. But if you serve a different God, if you serve a different, you have a different religion, and that grounds you, then so be it. But make sure that you are grounded. Make sure that you are grounded in the Lord, grounded in Christ is what I would recommend. He is the Almighty God, okay, the Lord of Lords. And so therefore, I don't waste my time with anything else. But what that does, my spiritual health, gives me the strength and the peace, and it gives me hope, and it allows me to be able to have acceptance of myself, acceptance of others. Okay, so get spiritually grounded. Integrity. Make sure that you are living a life of integrity. Our words and actions define our character. Okay, so here's the thing. Do what you say you're going to do. Be where you say you're going to be. And trust that you are worthy, trust that you have value. And because it all affects your self-worth. It all affects your self-worth. How you see yourself and how you see others. It affects yourself and how you see others. So our integrity and who we are as people, it identifies to others who we are. So if we're not about who we say we are, then really it identifies to others that we may have some issues going on within ourselves. When I see someone who is, struggling to be comfortable in their skin, who's struggling, who's always, being judgmental towards others. I don't look at that person as there's something wrong with me. I look at that person as there's something wrong with them. They have some things that they're uncomfortable with within themselves. Because when you're focused on yourself, you don't have time to be worried about others. You don't have time to be, worried about what other people are doing, how other people are acting. Because when you are working on yourself and focused on who you are and being a better person, then you find out and realize that takes a lot of time. That takes up a lot of time. So when I find people who are constantly just, focused on what other people are doing, then I know that there's some things that they're avoiding on working on within themselves. So being responsible, being selfless. A huge part of adulting is learning to be selfless. When you are a child, like the word says, you behave as a child, you speak as a child, you act as a child. And a part of being a child is being very selfish, right? I want this, I want that. I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that. And it's all about pleasing self. But when you become an adult, it's about learning also how to please others, how to have delayed gratification, how to be patient, how to compromise, right? Even when we don't want to do these things, how to have some balance and regulate some things in your life. Our time, our stress, our fun, our sleep, our activity, our vacation. Balance keeps us at peace. And when you become an adult, you learn very quickly that there is no greater place to be than in a place of peace. And you will do anything and sacrifice everything necessary to keep yourself in that place of peace. And the older you get, the quicker and the easier it becomes for you to do. The less you deal with crazy, toxic people, the less you're willing to accept anything less than excellence sometimes in your life. The easier it is for you to eliminate people or limit your time with people. And so, peace becomes everything. It becomes everything. It extends our life. It extends our health. And so we will sacrifice everything to keep peace in our life because it becomes so important. When you're a kid and when you're a young adult, you can deal with things, you'll accept things, you'll tolerate things. But the older you get, the less tolerant you become of things that disrupts your peace. And the quicker you'll get rid of people or move yourself away from things that doesn't keep peace in your life. Let's see. Good morning, Vernell. How are you? Every day on God, 6 months starting. God is 6 months to work on your flaws. About yourself, you have no time to worry about everybody else. That's so true. So true. When you're working on yourself, you don't have time to worry about everybody else. And that's just honest to God true. So ownership, taking ownership of what you are, what you say and what you do, taking ownership of your words, how you say it, making sure that we're listening, paying attention, not over talking, being kind, being compassionate. All these things require are a part of what real adulting is. Adulting is a lifelong skill that we are constantly working to master, and we have to be willing to be to make necessary adjustments. We have to be willing to make necessary adjustments along the way. Be flexible, be compromising, be firm, be loving, and be forgiving when needed. Okay, all this is a part of becoming an adult. So many things. So I'm glad that you all, or you think that you are adulting because you fixed your own home cooked meal that didn't come out of a box, right? Congratulations. That's awesome. But adulting, just know that you need to be working and preparing and readying yourself for so many more things that involves adulting. All right. So it is 5:34. I don't want to take up too much more time. I like for these class sessions to be around 30 minutes because, I like to think people are watching on their way to work, and it usually takes people about 30 minutes to get to work. So I try to keep them around that time. Tomorrow, I have an exciting, I'll be going live tomorrow night at 8:00. I have a CEO, woman who will be coming on talking to us about how she has been able to use words to fund her purpose. How she is using words to fund her purpose. So if you have a small business, if you thought about If you've thought about, starting a small business, if you are a nonprofit, if you've thought about starting a nonprofit, and you're looking for ways to find money, to fund the things, to fund your purpose, to fund your dream, to fund the services that you're trying to provide in the community, do not miss tomorrow night, because she has, some very good information that she a phenomenal business that she has developed, and good work that she puts out. So if you are looking to do that, don't miss tomorrow night's episode. All right. So I'm going to say a prayer, and then we will be heading out. We'll be heading out. Father, thank you for who you are. Thank you for the love and the grace, the mercy. Thank you for transitioning us, for showing us that we are not always here to be children, that we have to transition into these stages of adulthood. Help us in our willingness and in our flexibility and in our ability to compromise and make good decisions. Father, transitioning into adulthood is never easy, and we fail at it time and time again. But help us to forgive ourselves when we fall short of being who we're called to be and doing the things that we know that we need to do. We have the forces of evil constantly working against us, constantly trying to keep us down, constantly trying to prevent us from moving forward into the things that you have called us to do. So, Father, give us the strength. Help us to recognize who you are in our life, to keep you first and foremost in our life, so that as we make these transitions, we know that we are not alone in the things that we do and the things that we are attempting, that we have the power to do everything that we are called to do, because you are in us and you are all powerful. And if we have you in us, there's nothing that we cannot accomplish. We are only limited by our faith to believe it. So give us the strength. Show us where we can, and help us as we transition into these different phases of adulthood in our life. Help us to make sure that we're pouring into those young people that are around us, and to help us to keep peace in our life where there is disruption. Father, we love you. We thank you. Bless everyone in this chat this morning, those watching the replay. And we love you. These things I ask in your son, Jesus' name. Amen. All right, everyone. I will see you all prayerfully tomorrow night. And you all have a wonderful day, a wonderful Friday, a wonderful weekend. If I don't see you, we'll be back here next week. And I will try to be here on Monday. I'm going to try to be here on Monday. I've been struggling with my Mondays. Y'all pray for me. Okay. But for sure, probably I'll be here Tuesday, Wednesday and Friday for class. Y'all take care. Love you all, and have a blessed day.